Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Are you all excited to know your quirks? A young woman said while crouching in front of a group of 5 small kids who excitedly nodded at this. In the middle of the group was a green-haired boy with an innocent and beautiful smile. His name was Izuku, and he was left in the orphanage 4 years ago by some unknown person. Today he, along with 4 more kids, have reached the age of 4 years and are going to get their quirk checked. Alright, then sit down in the car and don't fight. Okay, the woman said as she opened the back door of the car, and all 5 children rushed into the car. After everyone sat in the car, they took off to the hospital to get their quirk checked. I hope I get a powerful quirk like All Might, Izuku said, as others also started praying for strong quirks so that they can brag or become strong heroes like the #1 hero, All Might. After driving for about few minutes, they finally reached the hospital. And we are here, the caretaker said as she opened the door for all of the children with a beautiful smile on her face. After locking the car, everyone started walking towards the reception, where the caretaker told the receptionist that she had already booked an appointment and also showed the proof. After getting the green light, they all walked together towards the quirk doctor room and found several kids sitting outside in the hall. Some of them were nervous, while some of them looked excited. After waiting for about half an hour, finally their turn came, and the caretaker led the group of 5 kids into the room where they saw the doctor sitting on the chair reading something, but when he saw them, he put the report down before giving a smile as he gestured all of them to sit down. "Good morning, missus. You are here to check the quirks of these 5 kids, right?" the doctor asked as the caretaker nodded. The doctor then looked towards the 5 kids with a smile before saying, "All right, which one of you wants to go first?" "I want to go first," one of the kids yelled as he approached the doctor. The doctor nodded at this before saying, "All right then, now I'm going to take a little amount of blood from you." "All right." The kid nodded before the doctor took some amount of his blood from the kid while the caretaker placed a shoulder on the kid to relax him and make him feel safe. One by one, the doctor started collecting blood sample from all the 5 kids, and once done, he excused himself before walking towards another room with the blood samples. After 8 minutes, the doctor finally came with several reports in his hand and a serious-looking face. "All right, the report is here," the doctor said seriously as he sat down on his chair. The caretaker and the kids looked at the doctor intensely. The doctor sighed as he said, "All of you have a quirk. Except for one." He dropped the bomb as all the kids went into panic mode. The caretaker expression changed from calm to an annoyed expression and then to a disgusted one before returning back to normal. "Who is the odd one, doctor?" she asked doctor while hiding the annoyance she was feeling. "Great, one of these brats is useless, but no worry. Once I found out who it is, I will kick him out. I don't want any pathetic and worthless quirkless waste near me," the woman thought as she looked at the doctor, who had a grim expression. "The green-haired kid named Izuku is the one who is quirkless," the doctor said as the Izuku froze and all the kids along with the caretaker looked at him. Izuku could notice the disgust in the caretaker's eye even if she did her best to hide it. The other kids started laughing at him while throwing insults at him. Izuku didn't say anything as he looked down with wide eyes and large tears. He knew why everyone's behavior towards him changed. Despite being 4 years old, Izuku was very, very smart for his age and had already found about the status of quirkless and what happens to them in the current-day society. Every day when he saw a hero and different kids use their quirks, he would always pray that he unlocks a quirk. But looks like the life was cruel. Izuku sat down in the car along with the other 4 kids who were bouncing in excitement and talking about their quirks. They had completely forgot about him. But the most pain he felt was by the look that his caretaker gave him. Since he had no family, he had always seen his caretaker as his mother who will always protect him no matter what. But looks like it was just a false reality. He could still see the glare of disgust and hate by his caretaker as she sat down in the driver's seat. After reaching orphanage, she ordered all of them to get out, but when Izuku starts to get out, he was stopped by her and was told to stay in the car as they both had to go somewhere. Izuku sat in the seat in confusion as the caretaker drove the car. He was trying to remember if he had somewhere to go, but he didn't remember anything sort of that. But soon he realized the intentions of the caretaker as he saw that they were in front of forest, but before he could do anything, he was lifted up roughly by the quirk of the caretaker, which was mid-level telekinesis, and was thrown towards the forest. He crashed into the tree and screamed in pain as he felt an immense amount of pain and blood flowed from his head. Dark spots started to occur in his vision as he started to feel dizzy, but he still forced his mind to maintain some consciousness and yelled with all his might as tears flowed from his eyes. "PP please don't tllea." He cried but soon lost the strength to yell as he felt the pain return, but before he could completely black out, he noticed his caretaker spitting at him before getting into the car and driving away. "And Miss Wyon." He called out her name in desperation before blacking out. Izuku groaned as he clutched his head in pain before looking around and found himself in a forest. He was confused at first, but very soon all the memories of the last incident flashed into his mind as tears started to flow from his eyes. He still couldn't believe that the woman he had always seen as his mother had abandoned him to die in a forest just because he was quirkless. He felt an immense amount of pain and anger in himself as he stood while taking the support of the tree. His stomach grumbled as he moved his other hand and placed it on his stomach. He slowly started walking deeper into the forest to look for some fruits. "There's still time until sunset," he thought as he searched for some food to eat. Few minutes later, Izuku finds a small pond and quickly rushes to it, but due to being both injured and exhausted, he collapses in the end and lands into the pond directly, but fortunately, due to the pond being not too deep, he didn't drown. "I need to be more careful," he said as he started washing his body, and since it was the only source of water and looked clean, he drank it to satisfy his growing thirst for water. After drinking enough water, he released a satisfying sigh before coming out of the pond and then sat on the ground. "I am still hungry," he said to himself as his stomach grumbled. He pushed himself up before walking forward to find some fruits, and luckily he found some berries in the bushes. He smiled before collecting them and then cleaned all of them before starting to eat it. He knew these weren't poisonous because he had eaten these berries before too. After satisfying his hunger, he stood up and started to walk forward again. "Now, the last thing, which is a shelter," he said to himself as he looked around for some sort of cave where he could survive the night, and once more, he was in luck as he found a cave not very far away from the water pond. He sighed before walking inside with a stick in his hand since there was a possibility of some wild animals inside. He gulped as he started walking. Even though he was acting quite smart and tough, he was still a soon-to-be 5-year-old child only. He slowly and steadily walked inside the cave, but his field of vision was reduced significantly due to the darkness, which scared him more. But he still walked forward while gripping the stick tightly, and after walking for 2 minutes, he reached the dead end, and fortunately, it was completely clean and there was no sign of any other animal living here. Izuku sighed in relief before walking outside to collect some dry leaves and a pair of stones to make a fire source. But looks like his luck streak ran out as he found a wolf staring at him outside. Izuku immediately froze as he met with the eyes of the wolf, who growled. Cold sweat ran down his forehead and his heart was beating very fast as he found himself face to face with a wolf. His mind started to race as he tried to imagine any way to get away from the wolf, but nothing came in his mind. The wolf started to move forward towards Izuku slowly while showing his sharp fangs, trying to intimidate Izuku, which worked very well. Upon seeing the wolf close the distance between them, Izuku forced himself to come out of his frozen state. Izuku took a deep breath before readying himself to fight against the wolf. The wolf, seeing this, snarled before growling dangerously. The wolf immediately pounced at Izuku, but Izuku dodged the attack, but was not able to keep his balance. Izuku was about to stand up but was unable to as he blocked a slash from the wolf with his stick, which suffered quite a damage. Izuku used all of his strength and smashed the stick into the forehead of the wolf, earning a painful howl from it. Izuku quickly stood up and before picking a big stone from the ground to use it as a weapon since his stick had broke during his last attack. The wolf shook his head before glaring at Izuku dangerously and immediately rushed towards Izuku. But Izuku once again dodged and smashed the stone on one of its leg. The wolf lost its balance as he was hit on one of its leg. Izuku stood behind him with an injured shoulder which had a slash mark from the previous attack, which he was not able to dodge completely. Izuku gritted his teeth in pain as he suppressed the urge to let out a painful scream. Izuku looked up and saw that the wolf was rushing at him again. He tried to dodge but was unable to due to his pain and with slashes in his chest. Blood sprayed from his wound as he let out a painful scream before collapsing while holding his chest in pain. The wolf snarled again before starting to walk towards Izuku. Izuku just laid there with tears spilling out of his eyes. He was not ready to die. He wanted to live and prove to his former caretaker that he was not useless. He wanted to enjoy his life to the fullest and become a hero. As the wolf came closer, Izuku's heartbeat increased more and his fear of dying too. Izuku closed his eyes while waiting for his death, but nothing happened. Confused, he opened his eye and saw that the wolf had slowed down in the air. What the Izuku said. What the? Izuku was shocked by seeing the wolf stuck in air. Multiple ideas started to come into his mind as he saw the wolf get slowed in the air, and the most prominent idea of his was that he had unlocked his quirk, which gave him the ability to slow down time. Suddenly, a screen popped up in front of him out of nowhere. All the conditions have been met. Activating the Dragon System. The Dragon System has been activated. Congratulations. You have successfully become the player of the newly unlocked Dragon System. My eyes widened as I read what was written on the screen. This Dragon System had unlocked just now, which means that the condition for it to unlock was to experience a life-death situation. Izuku thought as he looked at the screen. He was bewildered and angry due to his own quirk, but still he was happy that he was not quirkless like before. Looking at his quirk, it has something to do with dragons, Izuku thought. Initiating transformation. Alert! The player's race will now be changed from a human to a dragon. Izuku's eye widened more in amazement and shock as he read the last message, but a thought crossed his mind for once which dreaded him. Wait, what if I was never able to take a human form and stay in a dragon form always? Izuku thought and grimaced, hoping that it wasn't true. Suddenly, Izuku's body was surrounded with dark red energy and a cocoon was formed around him. And after 5 minutes, the cocoon burst open with dark energy released from it violently, and a shockwave was created which sent the wolf crashing into the wall of the cave with a lot of force, making him go unconscious. Izuku's eye opened as he stood completely fine. He was taller than before and had red hairs and eyes instead of green ones. He smirked as soon as he opened his eyes. I feel more refreshed now, he said as he stretched himself. Now then, where was that wolf? He said as he looked around and found it lying on the ground. Izuku picked up the stone from before with much more ease and started cautiously walking towards it. Once he reached the wolf, he kicked him twice to check whether it was alive or not, but got no reaction from it. Then he saw the rising and falling of his chest, and realized that the wolf was still alive and breathing. He looked at the wolf before looking at the stone in his hand, and then used all of his strength to smash the stone directly into the dog's head, which owned a loud cracking sound as blood exploded out of the wolf's head. Izuku smiled in accomplishment as he heard the skull of the wolf crack. He threw the stone away before starting to walk towards the pond. After reaching the pond, he looked at his reflection in water and found out about the change that took place in his body. That was fun, he said with a chuckle as he sat down with his back pressed against a tree. So, I now have a quirk which has converted me into a dragon, but I still have a human appearance, Izuku said to himself as he inspected his body to check anything strange, but found nothing except for the changes he had already noticed. Wait, then what about the blue screen that occurred? He said to himself as he looked around but didn't found any blue screen floating around him. What if I try saying this? Open, he said, but nothing happened. Then, I guess should I say something related to game like status, he said to himself, and immediately a large window popped in front of him. Status. Name, Izuku. Race, low-class dragon. LVL, 10. HP, 500-500. MP, 300-300. Strength, 10. Agility, 10. Endurance, 10. Vitality, 10. Intelligence, 10. Sen, 10. AP, 0. I am basically at the starting level. Well, no problem since I'm only 4 years old and I have over 11 years before I apply for Uday, Izuku said as he scratched his chin before standing up and then walked towards the wolf copse. I'm getting very hungry and it's almost dark too, he said to himself before dragging the copse into the cave. Izuku groaned as several rays of light hit him on his face, waking him up from his sleep. As soon as he opened his eyes, he panicked when he found himself not in his orphanage room, but slowly his memory from previous days started to replay, which made Izuku look down while clenching his fist tightly. That woman, he said with venom in his voice as he stood up before walking towards the pond to wash himself and get ready to start his training to become the strongest. Now then, let's start, Izuku. said to himself before trying push-ups but failed miserably as he only managed to do 3 before he fell down. A physical training quest has been made by the system. Please complete the below requirements to finish the quest. Push-up 0010. Sit-up 0015. Squats 0015. Run 0.2 km. Warning: failure to complete this quest will result in penalty. This is a daily quest and hence will be received daily to make player physically strong. The quest requirement will also increase gradually. I looked at the screen in front of me with a serious look before gaining a determined look on my face. My quirk is helping me to get strong, and since this is like a video game, it should also give me reward for completion of the quest, Izuku said before starting to do the quest given by the system. Damn, it hurts, Izuku said as he sat in front of the pond after doing his physical training. Well now then, let's open the quest window to get rewards, Izuku said as he opened the quest window, and there was a separate column present below the quest which contained 2 rewards. Rewards for quest completion. 1. 2 stat points. 2. Random item box. Accept both, Izuku said as a small gift box appeared in front of him. He opened the box and got a small sword from it. A smile appeared on Izuku's face as his eyes started shining. Whoa, a sword, he said as he carefully swung the sword around before placing it back on the ground. Iron small sword. Plus 5 STR. Plus 8 attack damage when equipped. A small sword made up of iron. It can be used to fight against enemies. Let's place this in inventory for now, Izuku said as he put the sword in the inventory, which was completely empty. But not now. I'm hungry. Fortunately, I still have leftovers from the yesterday, which will be more than enough for today also, he said to himself before standing himself. And done, Izuku said to himself as he put points into his stats. It's been around 2 months since Izuku was abandoned here, but instead of crying and complaining about it, he had started to take advantage of this situation. He has also gotten good in hunting since it is one of the major source of food in the middle of a forest where being not much knowledgeable about fruits can result food poisoning or even worse. Status: Name: Izuku. Race: low-level dragon. LVL: 10. HP: 1-250-1-250. MP: 750 or 750. Strength: 35. Agility: 26. Endurance: 26. Vitality: 25. Intelligence: 25. Sen: 25. AP: 0. Izuku has been investing his points mainly in strength since being a dragon. His strength should come in handy when his speed is not very fast, and endurance is also important since dragons come in the category of heavy tankers or attackers. But still, Izuku didn't want it to just heavily depend on these only and wanted to widen his advantages, which is why he also invested in other stats to keep them close to each other and make them all balanced while giving strength an edge. Leaving that, Izuku found a new feature of his gaming quirk that was that he could create dungeon and enter it to fight against monsters to level up, but Izuku didn't want to try it now because of several reasons. Which is why Izuku decided to go to the dungeon when he becomes 5-year-old, which meant that he had around 6 months before entering the dungeon. Izuku decided that he will use this time to get more experienced in stealth and hunting since these 2 skills could easily be perfected in an environment of a forest. Moreover, Izuku also decided that he will try to find his way back into the city and visit the library there to keep his brain sharp and educated since information was a very important thing in today's world. Izuku quickly washed himself up before wearing the clothes he got from the random item box. Good to go, Izuku said to himself with a smile before running at full speed towards the direction where he was first left in the forest. And soon enough, he found the place where he was first left by his supposed caretaker. After arriving there, he found a road and quickly started following it to reach the nearby city, and after running for about 35 minutes, he found the city. Tall buildings everywhere. Roads were filled with vehicles. People were talking. He could even see 2 to 3 pro heroes walking around to keep the city clean. Izuku started to walk around the city in order to find a public library where he can find books to read upon, and soon enough, he found a large public library. He opened the gate and found a woman sitting behind the reception with a smile on her. As soon as the door opened, she turned towards the door and found little Izuku entering the library. She stood up before approaching Izuku, who looked at her. "Hey little cutie, what's your name?" She asked as she crouched down to reach the level of Izuku, who smiled at her before introducing himself as Izuku. Oh, what a beautiful name. So are you here to read books? She asked as Izuku nodded. Where are your parents? She asked, to which Izuku flinched a bit before looking down. The woman immediately understood the situation and hugged Izuku before saying, I am sorry about your loss. Do you have anyone else to take care of you? Izuku nodded, to which the woman smiled before standing up and then said, all right now, let's get you the book you need. Izuku smiled at this before telling her that he needed educational books for second-class students. The woman was confused why he asked that, to which Izuku explained that he was very smart and was way ahead of his other peers. He also proved this to the librarian when he answered some questions asked by her. After getting all the books, Izuku sat down on one of the chairs and started to read the books till evening. During the afternoon, he brought out several berries from inventory to satisfy his hunger before continuing to read the books. The librarian was amazed by the level of dedication and concentration showed by Izuku. He kept reading till evening, and around 4:30 p.m., he finally left the library, but not before promising the librarian that he will come regularly from now on. Izuku left the city and started to run towards his cave with full speed, thus continuing his journey to survive and become strong. And done, Izuku said as he finished his last push-up before sitting down on the ground while his back was against one of the tree. Status: Name, Izuku. Race, low-level dragon. LVL, 10. HP, 4250-4250. MP, 2400-400. Strength, 100. Agility, 85. Endurance, 90. Vitality, 85. Intelligence, 80. Sen, 82. AP, 0. Izuku proudly smiled at himself as he looked at his stat. For the past 8 months he had trained a lot and had become very good at both stealth and hunting, which was a good thing. He had also increased his stats very much, and now he was fully ready to enter the dungeon which the system will provide. Izuku cleaned himself up before getting dressed and getting ready to enter the dungeon. Alright, system. ID create. Zombie City, he said as the space himself started to crack and a blue portal opened in front of him with blue electricity crackling around it. Instant dungeon. Zombie City successfully created. A screen appeared above the portal. Izuku smirked before readying his small sword that he got months ago and then entered the dungeon with a determined expression. As soon as Izuku entered the dungeon, the portal closed and he started to look around, trying to notice everything around him. Izuku was currently in the middle of a road. He was surrounded by destroyed buildings and rusted cars were lying around as it was raining lightly. Izuku started to walk forward and soon found 2 zombies standing, looking around trying to find a prey. Izuku smirked before taking out his bow out of the inventory. He had also obtained the bow from the random item box, and it was quite useful in hunting. Since he didn't have much supply of arrow, he used to make his own arrow with wooden stone and then stored it in the inventory for future use. He took out an arrow before aiming at one of the zombies who was mindlessly standing at a single place while growling. Whoosh! The arrow cut through air before piercing the head of its target. The zombie didn't have any time to react before it was killed by the arrow shot by Izuku. Izuku smirked at this as he looked at the screen that just popped up. You have leveled up. Well, my level is quite low compared to my stats, so I should be more stronger than the zombies available in this dungeon. But still, I shouldn't underestimate, or else it will cost my life, Izuku said to himself as he shot arrow at the second zombie and killed it. Finally, some rest, Izuku panted as he sat down. He had been killing zombies continuously for past 3 hours, because of which he had become physically exhausted. His sword was also at the verge of breaking down after he used to kill around 200 zombies, and he had also leveled up 9 times. Up until now, Izuku didn't have any problem dealing with the zombies, but he had noticed that as he moved deeper into the city, he had started encountering armored and long-range attacking zombies. I think this much is enough for today, Izuku said as he told the system to open a portal to leave the dungeon, and soon he was out. He looked around and found that it was afternoon currently. So, time is same in both areas, he said to himself before heading out. Well, I think I will not go to library today and rest for today, Izuku said to himself before walking towards his cave to have a nice afternoon lunch and a good sleep. Thank you for letting me rent this book, Sonya-san, Izuku said with a smile as he handed back the rented book back to the librarian, who also smiled at him before taking the books. No problem, Izuku-kun. I am glad you are so dedicated, she said as she typed something in her computer. Well, information and education are very important in life, Izuku said while rubbing his forehead, to which Sonya chuckled. You are right about that. So what are you gonna study today? She asked, to which Izuku gained a thoughtful expression before saying, Today, I'm planning on looking on some more books related to karate for my further practice. I see. Very well, then I will not hold you any longer. Enjoy your time here, she said, to which Izuku nodded before heading off to find the book he needed. It's been 1 year, and currently he was almost 7 years old. But thanks to him being a dragon, his height was more than others' 6 or 7 years, and he looked like an 8-year-old boy. He had also gotten close to Ms. Sonya, the librarian of the public library that he had always visited for past 2 years. He had also gotten very much stronger than he was 2 years ago. He had also learned a martial art, which was boxing, and now he was learning karate. It was quite difficult to master the martial art without an instructor, but Izuku managed to do because of the help he got from the book, and he also saw the classes in the nearby martial art institutions. Izuku had completed the education up till class 7 and was on a break for a month. That's why he was focusing on learning martial arts in the break before he starts class 8 syllabus. Izuku had also secretly visited his orphanage and had saw his former so-called caretaker taking care of children. He had become very angry on seeing her, but he calmed himself down while saying to himself that he will soon get his revenge. Izuku had also visited several other shops and had bought a few things from the money he got from the system store after he sold several things. Due to sharp senses, he was also able to find out that he was quite strong than a normal adult and was as strong as a mid-level hero. But these were not the only things that had happened. Izuku had become cold, confident, and prideful due to him being deprived of proper love and being mostly alone, and the last one coming due to him being a dragon. He didn't have a single person except for Sonya who he could call a friend. He only opened up to Sonya, who was quite fond of Izuku. Izuku was now currently walking back home, while looking at the screen in front of him. You have reached the required level. You can now evolve yourself to the next level. Do you want to proceed with the evolution? Why, when? He had gotten this notification yesterday after he had reached level 50, but since then he had put this on hold since he wanted to rest for 2 to 3 days before going back to his regular days of hunting and training. I guess I should see into this. Yes, proceed with the evolution, Izuku said aloud as he stood in front of his cave. Suddenly his vision went blank as he was surrounded by a dark red energy. The energy soon took form of a ball. After 2 hours, cracks started to appear on the ball, and suddenly the ball shattered like glass before vanishing into the air. There stood Izuku, more taller and stronger than before. His aura had significantly increased. Izuku opened his eyes as he felt a new surge of power flowing through him. He felt much stronger than before. He smirked at this before punching a nearby tree that exploded once Izuku punched it. I have clearly gotten much stronger, he said to himself as a window popped in front of him. Congratulations! You have ascended to the rank of middle-class dragon. All of your stats have been boosted by 10 points, and your base form strength had also increased. You can now access partial dragon transformation. Izuku's eye widened in surprise as he read the last line. Well, I can now basically convert some parts of my body into that of a dragon, he said to himself in amazement before walking in a clearing. Let's try this, Izuku said as he closed his eyes and tried to feel his wings, and soon enough, he felt something on his back. Izuku pushed his back further behind, and instantly, he heard a flap of wing coming from behind. Izuku slowly opened his eyes as he looked at his back, and once more his eyes widened in amazement as he saw big red draconic wings sprouted out of his back. Yes, I have wings now, and now I can fly, he shouted before flapping his wings, and with a strong gust of wind, he was launched upwards in the air. Izuku's eyes were sparkling with amazement as he learnt to control his wings and fly. He now had an extra pair of limbs, which were his wings. He also tested the strength of his wings and was more surprised when it destroyed a stone with a small scratch, only which was healed by Izuku's regeneration skill he had gotten 7 months ago. Afterwards, Izuku also transformed his hand into one of a dragon, and then his hand was covered in scales and a very tough red skin. His hand had grown larger and muscular. He then tried to do the same thing with his legs, but instead of that, his tail appeared. Izuku then also experimented several things with his tail before once again trying to convert his legs but failed. Later he found that currently he had a limit on how much he could convert his body into that of a dragon. Izuku smirked as he sat on a long tree's branch while looking at the sunset. This is only the start. So, where have you been, Izuku? I haven't seen you for past 1 week, Sonya asked with concern in her voice. Izuku smiled as he happy that there was someone in this world who cared about him. He was currently sitting with Sonya and having lunch in a nearby cafe. No need to worry, Sonya-san. I was just busy, he said to her, to which she looked at him suspiciously before asking, and what were you doing that what made you so busy? I had to complete some task given to me by my quirk, which is why I was busy, he said as she nodded. Izuku had already told Sonya about him having a gamer quirk and also him living in the forest. As soon he had told her that, she had freaked out and had asked Izuku immediately to come with her to her house. But Izuku refused by saying that he now loved the forest as his own home and did not want to leave from there. Afterwards, he also explained to her how he ended up there and how he got his quirk. To say that Sonya was angry was an understatement. She looked ready to kill Izuku's former caretaker, but thankfully, Izuku calmed her down by saying that he had already moved on and he will deal with her later. After reassuring Sonya for about 3 hours, she complied and let Izuku continue his daily life, but she still said that Izuku should always stay in contact with her, which Izuku complied with. Izuku had also brought his own phone that day after being forced by Sonya since she wanted his number so that she can contact him anytime. It's been 3 years since he became the middle-class dragon, and currently he was at level 131 with a pending evolution. He had decided that he would start his next evolution after reaching home. Izuku had become very strong in the past 3 years. He had not only increased his physical aspects, he had also increased his skills. He had mastered 4 different types of martial art and had also become very proficient in using bow and sword, making him both close and long-range fighter. Izuku had also made a habit of writing notes regarding the quirks of pro hero along with their weakness. This had helped Izuku in developing his analytical side, which was a very useful component in a battle since using an information and finding about your opponent's weakness is very important if you have to increase your rate of winning. Currently, Izuku was much stronger than some of the high-level pro heroes, and he was just 9 years old. Izuku took a huge pride at the fact of him being this strong despite being a little kid. Izuku still had his cold and reserved personality. Now about why he wasn't able to contact Sonya for past 1 week is because he decided to go on a long grinding mission, which led him to acquire 11 points after crossing level 100, which is why his phone was out of connection, which made Sonya very worried about Izuku. Alright then, take care, Izuku, and make sure to call me before you sleep. Alright, Sonya said as she stood up along with Izuku, who nodded with a smile on his face. Sonya walked forward and ruffled Izuku's hair a bit before planting a kiss on his head. Bye, Sonya-san, Izuku said as they both parted away. Izuku immediately ran full speed towards his house as he was filled with excitement regarding his next evolution. He expected that he would become a high-class dragon after this since he was currently on middle class. He couldn't wait to see what type of new changes he will get once he evolves. As soon as he got home, he immediately opened the window and clicked yes without any hesitation. The atmosphere around him tensed and darkened as dark red lightning started to crackle around the area. A huge amount of dark red energy erupted out of nowhere and surrounded Izuku as his vision blackened. The energy formed a ball while releasing a very huge amount of aura, which scared many animals as they immediately escaped the area. After a long wait of 12 hours, a crack appeared on the ball. And very soon, multiple cracks started to appear on the ball's surface, and soon the ball broke like glass as all the broken pieces dissolved in midair. In the middle stood a very large dragon with his body color being red. Congratulations! You have now ascended to the rank of high-class dragon. All of your stats have been boosted by 15 points and your strength has increased exponentially. You can now access the complete dragon transformation. Levels left to ascend to the next level, 119. The dragon looked up at the sky before roaring loudly, making the nearby area vibrate from his roar. Izuku looked all over his body and was surprised very much as this time he found himself in his dragon form. He had now become a complete dragon, a freaking dragon. Whoa, Izuku said in a very deep voice as he was amazed and surprised by this development. Cool. My voice also became very deep and intimidating, Izuku said as he looked around in the forest. It was currently nighttime, but he didn't care. He wanted to fully enjoy being in his dragon form, so he took off in the sky with his huge large red wings, which had become even bigger and stronger than before. This is what I call the real enjoyment, Izuku said in his dragon form as he flew around. Izuku, are you all right? Sonia asked with concern as she grabbed Izuku's shoulder. Izuku looked at her in confusion before it clicked in as he remembered the news in the morning. He had been careless last night and had flew for too long and near the city, which led to him being captured in photos which were shown in the news today. No need to worry, Sonia-san. That dragon was me only, Izuku said simply, to which Sonia's eye widened as she looked at Izuku in disbelief. Izuku chuckled at her reaction before again speaking, I know it may sound unbelievable, but that dragon was me in my true form. Sonia blinked a few times before shaking Izuku and then said, why didn't you tell me before? I am sorry, Sonia-san, but I also got to know it yesterday only, Izuku replied as Sonia stopped before sighing. All right, but don't get too careless. The police had decided to send a small team to check on this, and they will be exploring the forest. So, be careful, or if you want you can stay with me for a few days, she said as she looked at Izuku, who shook his head. No worries. I'm very good at hiding, and yeah, I also acknowledge the fact that I was too careless yesterday, Izuku replied while rubbing his head with a nervous smile. Sonia nodded at this with a slight angry look before sighing once again. Yeah, but leave that. You should continue on your reading session, she said, to which Izuku nodded before walking away. Aren't they very annoying, Izuku said to himself with an annoyed face as he watched 3 policemen along with 1 hero investigating. It has been 3 days since the investigation began, and by this time, Izuku was getting annoyed by this since he was forced to hide in his own damn home. After a few minutes, he sighed in relief as he saw them moving away. Izuku quietly jumped from one branch to another, following them stealthily to see where they were going, and fortunately for him, they were going towards the main road, which meant they were planning on closing this investigation. Izuku smiled as he saw them start the car before driving away, while Izuku pumped his fist upward before walking back towards his cave to continue on his regular exercise. He has also stopped receiving the daily quest, which meant that now he was solely dependent on dungeons and other quests to gain stat points. Izuku already anticipated that something like this would happen when he would become strong, since giving him 3 stat points every day just for a physical exercise that he can do more than 5 times in a row was quite foolish. Anyway, he still used to do the physical training to keep his physical self at peak. After completing his exercise, Izuku washed himself up before wearing his clothes and then opened up his phone and started to see the current news. There was nothing interesting, just the usual, which was majorly related to heroes and villains. Izuku then put his phone back into his pocket before running towards the main road. I think I will just walk around for an hour, he said as he started walking. After walking for several minutes, he arrived at the park he used to play in his childhood when he was still a kid of the orphanage, but now things had changed. He no longer was dependent on anyone. Gaining his trust had become very difficult as he refused to trust anyone until they become very, very close to him. Izuku had practically built a wall around himself that prevented others from approaching him. Whenever he was not around Sonia, he always had a cold aura around him which scared most of the children who tried to approach him. Izuku just sat at the swing alone. He saw a young green-haired girl along with an ash-blonde-haired boy playing together while using their quirk. They were also same as his age. He could also see their mother sitting on the nearby bench looking at them while they play. Come on, Izumi. It's time to go home, the green-haired woman named Inko said as her daughter nodded before walking towards her. You too, Kitsuki, the ash-blonde-haired woman said, to which the other kid nodded while grumbling as he also walked. Izuku saw their happy family, and for a moment, a hint of sadness appeared in his eyes before it was replaced by his usual cold eyes. Izuku sighed before dismissing the thought of a family. He didn't need a family in first place. He was independent enough to live his life alone. Izuku stood up before looking at the nearby sunset, and then clenched his fist with a fire of determination in his eyes. Everything was taken away from me. I have no friends except Sonia-san. No family, but still I have my dream. My dream of becoming a hero, which I will surely accomplish by graduating from Udata. Please bill all of this, Izuku said as he put lots of item on the counter of the store. The shopkeeper nodded before starting to bill them. This shop in which Izuku was currently shopping was one of the biggest supermarket in the entire city, and he was currently here to buy some things that he needed. Suddenly, a loud sound of gunshot was heard which sent everyone into a panic. Izuku's senses immediately heightened to maximum as his mind started to work at a very large speed as he looked around. "Stop! Don't move if you don't want to die." A man in black suit with a black appeared with a gun as he fired more gunshot before shouting these words which made everyone freeze in their spots. "Raise your hands and sit down on the floor." He shouted once again, but only few moved, so he fired one more time, and everyone quickly complied, even Izuku. Izuku sat down on the ground while analyzing the whole situation. There were 3 robbers and all of them carry a pistol. He had no knowledge about their quirk as they have not used it yet, and by looking at them and their actions, it was a robbery. This is a robbery. No one will move from their place or contact anyone, or else you all will die. "All right," one of the men shouted, to which everyone nodded fearfully. 2 of the 3 dashed towards the counter while one of them stood near us. Izuku sighed before using his telekinesis that he had unlocked 2 years ago to freeze the robber completely in one place, making him immobile and mute temporarily. He stood up as everyone looked at me. Before any one of them could make a sound, Izuku placed a finger on my mouth, gesturing all of them to stay quiet. He looked at the robber, who was still frozen due to my telekinesis. Izuku approached him before taking the gun from his hand and silently knocked him before gently putting him on the floor. Izuku glanced at the other 2 who were still busy looting the money so much that they still hadn't realized that one of them was down. "I would appreciate if you kindly surrender without any use of force," he said loudly, freezing both of them for a moment. They both immediately looked back and saw me standing in place of their companion. "A kid?" one of them said. "Sit down back silently, kid. Don't play hero or else your life will be cut short," the other one threatened as he pointed the gun at Izuku. Izuku sighed at this before using his telekinesis to crush the gun into powder, shocking both of the robber. "Damn, kid. You would have lived a long life, but you had to play hero," one of them said before rushing towards Izuku as his hand turned into a blade. So, a transformation quirk, which means that I need to stay at long range," Izuku thought before using his telekinesis to throw the villain back on the other one, and they both crashed into the nearby wall. "Weak," Izuku simply said as he approached both of them. Both of them were knocked out and a lodge was formed on the wall. Izuku looked back at everyone and nodded as everyone immediately stood up before thanking Izuku, who nodded back. The police also arrived in next 2 minutes. They captured all the 3 villains and then interrogated both the owner and Izuku before praising Izuku, but also said him to be careful from next time. Izuku quietly nodded as he didn't want it to argue and walked away with his items, which was given to him free of cost as a thanks from the owner. Izuku quietly walked back towards the forest. It's been 3 years since he achieved the high-class dragon rank, and currently he was just 2 levels away from being ascended once again to a new rank. Name: Izuku. Race: high-class dragon. LVL: 248. HP: 570, 525, 570, 525. MP: 472, 210, 472, 210. Strength: 393. Agility: 345. Endurance: 390. Vitality: 376. Intelligence: 354. Sen: 343. AP: 0. He smirked as he saw his stats. His hard work of total of 8 years had resulted into this outstanding power. Right now, he could say with a guarantee that no one except for All Might had a chance of defeating him. Even for All Might, it will be almost impossible to defeat him. After placing all his important stuff inside the inventory and getting changed into a little former cloth, which was a red shirt and black jeans, Izuku walked out of the forest and then booked a cab to the house of Sonia. Today, Sonia had invited him to a dinner in her house, and he had gracefully accepted it since he knew that she isn't going to stop bugging him until he accepted. Izuku was currently 12 years old, and by height he already looked a late teen with a very good height. He also received male looks from the female population due to his cute and handsome face. But due to his cold aura, he seemed like unapproachable to everyone. Sonia had tried to fix this attitude and personality of Izuku, but he was dead set on continuing with this since he had become a very isolated person who chose very carefully who to trust and who to not. Up until now, Sonya was the only one who Izuku trusted. Izuku had also talked with Sonya regarding his dream of going to U.A, to which Sonya pointed out several points which made sense. She told Izuku that once they get to know that Izuku had no legal guardian, no actual place to live, they will definitely try to bring Izuku to their place and get close to him, which Izuku will not like at all. Izuku agreed to this and then said, "You are right, Sonya-san. Then, I guess the only choice I have to live with me." Sonya finished Izuku's sentence with a smile, as Izuku shook his head with an amused look before giving his own smile. Sonya was a divorced young lady whose husband had died long time ago in a villain attack, and since then she had not married, which is why she never had a child. But when she met Izuku and got to know about his situation, she sincerely hoped that Izuku would accept her idea and live with her. "You are right. Very well then, I guess. You are going to be my mom from now on," Izuku said with a bright smile, as Sophia nodded with little tears in her eyes before quickly hugging Izuku tightly, to which Izuku also hugged back. Izuku knew that Sonya was still very sad about her husband's death and had no one to rely on, so he had decided to become one of the trusted person of Sonya to whom she can talk freely regarding her feelings. After that, they both sat down on the dining table and had dinner together while talking about several things. After having dinner, Izuku left to collect his belongings so he can settle in the morning, which Sonya accepted. Next morning, Izuku put all of his items in his inventory before giving one last look to his home. "I will miss you, but don't worry, this is not a permanent goodbye. I will surely visit here to train myself or spend some time in peace," he said as he gave a two-finger salute before walking away. After reaching Sonya's home, Izuku rang her bell, to which Sonya immediately opened the door and greeted Izuku before inviting him inside. "So, you got everything, Izu?" she asked, to which Izuku nodded before Sonya guided him to his room where he will live from now on. After that, Sonya gave him a tour of the house and then said, "Rest for today. We will visit the government office tomorrow to get your name changed and to also change some more things." Izuku nodded at this before walking back to his room. "It's gonna be a long day tomorrow," Izuku said as started to place his belongings in his new room. "You ready, Izuku?" Sonya asked as Izuku nodded before standing up fully dressed in a black hoodie and black lower. "All right then, let's go," she said as both of them exited the house and then locked it before entering Sonya's car. "We will need to go to the police station first," Izuku said as Sophia nodded before driving toward the Musutafu police station. After driving for a few minutes, they finally reached the police station. After parking the car in the parking area, they went inside and met with the officer sitting on the front desk. "Excuse me, I would like to talk with the head in charge here," Sonya said as the officer at the front desk nodded before pulling out his phone and then talk with someone. "All right, but you would have to wait for 15 minutes since sir is currently busy in a case," the policeman said, to which Sonya nodded and then thanked him before sitting on the nearby couch with Izuku. After waiting for 10 minutes, a tall man with short black hair wearing an overcoat and a hat entered the police station with two more police officers behind him. He walked inside one of the room, which was his office. The officer at the front desk gestured Sonya to go to the same office, which Sonya understood as she along with Izuku stood up before walking towards the office. Sonya respectfully knocked on the door before entering when she received a confirmation from the other side. "Good morning, sir," Sonya greeted the officer, which he returned while Izuku just gave a nod. "Please sit down," the officer said as both Sonya and Izuku sat down on the chair directly opposite to his. "Now, first of all, I will introduce myself. I am Naomasa Tsukochi, a captain and detective of the police force." The man named Naomasa introduced himself, to which both Izuku and Sonya nodded before introducing themselves. "All right. Now will you please tell me why you wanted to talk with me?" he asked, to which Sonya replied, "Actually, detective, I wanted to talk about Izuku with you." The detective glanced at Izuku, who just looked stoic before looking at Sonya and then gestured her to continue. Sonya then started to tell the detective everything that Izuku told her regarding how he was kicked out and left in the forest to die, but he managed to survive and has been living there for past 8 years. During the whole explanation by Sonya, various emotions flashed through the detective's face like anger, concern, disbelief, and others too, while Izuku maintained his stoic expression while reading the expressions on the detective's face. After Sonya finished her explanation, the detective immediately called an officer inside and told him to check whether there was a missing report 8 years ago regarding a green-haired quirkless boy named Izuku. The officer nodded before exiting the room while the detective rubbed his forehead before turning towards Izuku, and then said, "If you don't mind, Can you please share the story from your side? Izuku nodded before starting to tell the story from his side, and of course he kept many things a secret and only told that he had a quirk related to dragon, not a gaming one, or even telekinesis. After listening the whole story, Detective had an expression of horror and disbelief. He couldn't believe that someone would abandon a 4-year-old kid in a forest just because he was quirkless. Moreover, the fact that the kid survived and had lived 8 years in a forest all alone is another fact that was very unbelievable for him. But he knew that everything the kid said was truth since he had a quirk which could tell whether the person sitting in front of him was telling the truth or a lie. A few moments later, the officer arrived with a missing report file in which Izuku's details were mentioned. They found out that Izuku was declared dead after an investigation for 2 weeks, and the caretaker had told the police that some people had attacked her and Izuku during their car ride in which they kidnapped Izuku, but the caretaker barely managed to escape out. Izuku clenched his fist as he read the false information given by the caretaker. Sonya immediately noticed this and kept a hand on Izuku's shoulder to calm him down, which worked effectively as Izuku took a deep breath to calm himself down. All right then. After recording both of your statement and verifying it, we will open a new case regarding this and will bring the caretaker for her statement before presenting her in front of the judiciary. You both can go back home, and we will keep you updated regarding the case, the detective said as both of them nodded. Regarding the changes, detective? Sonya asked, to which the detective replied, no worries. We will update all the information in Izuku's document, and also if you want to adopt him, then you can go to the government office. Sonya nodded before thanking the detective as Izuku simply gave a nod before leaving the police station along with Sonya. That boy has undergone various hardships but knows very well how to hide them, the detective said as he watched the back of Izuku. And done. From now on you are officially Izuku Shinon, Sonya said as she hugged Izuku tightly and forced his face into her massive rack, making it harder for him to breathe. Izuku tried to speak and even tapped her shoulder to get her attention. Sonya quickly noticed what she was doing and released him before apologizing, which Izuku waved off. All right. Let's go to a cafe to celebrate, she said with a bright smile, which was followed by Izuku's. After having a good lunch while talking to each other in the nearby cafe, Izuku and his new mom Sonya entered the car before driving towards their house, but their ride was not going to be normal. Because suddenly, they saw a large villain causing destruction in the middle of the city while the pro-heroes tried to stop him but failed miserably. Izuku's body tensed and his senses heightened to the maximum instantly as he analyzed the situation. Suddenly, the villain broke a large chunk of a nearby building and threw it a random direction, which was unfortunately the same direction where Izuku and Sonya were. Sonya's eye widened in horror as she turned towards Izuku to cover him with her body but found out that he was not there. I will be back soon, Mom, Izuku said as Sonya saw him standing on top of the car in front of them. Izuku immediately took a long jump into the sky and landed on top of a nearby small building before using his telekinesis to hold the huge piece of building in mid-air. Everyone watched in amazement as a kid protected them by using his telekinetic quirk. Izuku's eyes glowed red before he threw the huge debris back towards the villain, and it directly hit the villain on the head, making him hold his head while screaming in pain. The pro-heroes took advantage of this and immediately used their quirk to capture him. After seeing that the problem was solved, Izuku jumped back towards his car. As soon as he landed, he started to hear the sound of clapping. Looking around, he found that everyone around him was praising him while clapping for him. Izuku smiled at this before starting to walk towards his mom, who was standing outside the car with an angry expression on her face. As soon as he reached her, she grabbed his ear tightly before twisting it, owning an ouch from Izuku. Even though what you did was heroic, you shouldn't scare your mom like that. All right, she said in a serious tone, to which Izuku nodded before Sonya hugged him tightly and then ruffled his hair before praising him for his actions, which made Izuku more happy. But before they could leave, a voice stopped them, which was from Death Arms, a pro-hero that was on the scene fighting the giant villain. Izuku narrowed his eyes as he looked at Death Arm, who stood before him trying to intimidate Izuku, who was a little shorter than him. Even though that was a heroic action, you committed vigilantism by using your quirk without any license, he said, to which Sonya retorted, but sir, still he saved many people and this was the first time. You are right about that, but I can't let it slide since it will only encourage him to become a hero in situations where he shouldn't be, he said while closing onto Sonya, who became uncomfortable as the hero invaded her personal space. Izuku's eye dangerously glowed red as he grabbed the shoulder of the hero roughly, gaining his attention. Huh? Can't you see, kid? I am talking to your Mo. His words were cut short as Izuku grabbed him by his hair before smashing it into the ground, forming a crater there. Everyone around them, including Sonya's eye, widened in horror as they watched Izuku smash Death Arm into the ground with so much force. Izuku forced Death Arm to look upwards by pulling his hair. Death Arm's eye widened in fear as his throat became dry when he saw the dangerous red draconic eye of Izuku. Stay away from my mom or else I will make you regret being born, Izuku said to him in a very deadly and deep tone before throwing him to a nearby wall. Izuku's eye changed back to normal as his emotions got stable. Let's go, Mom, he said simply as Sonya nodded before both of them entered the car and then left the area. Why did you do that, Izu? She asked as Izuku sighed before saying shyly, He was making you go uncomfortable. Sonya glanced at Izuku for a moment before giggling as she noticed the shy expression on his face. You look so cute when you are shy, Izu, and thank you there. He was really making me very uncomfortable, she said as Izuku nodded. During the evening, several news channels were filled with a single news, which was Izuku saving many people by using his quirk and then beating the pro hero Death Arms. Even Detective Tsukochi called them to talk regarding this matter, where Sonya explained the reasoning behind Izuku's latter action. This was also reflected in the news channel as many female and male reporters pointed out that Death Arm was invading the privacy of a woman, forcefully making his reputation drop by a significant margin. Izuku smirked in satisfaction as he saw the news before heading towards the kitchen. Mom, I will be going on a dungeon. We'll be back in 3 hours, he said to his mom, who looked towards him before saying, okay, but be careful and don't do anything reckless in there. If you come heavily injured, I will be grounding you for 1 month from going to dungeon. Izuku smiled at her mom's worry before giving her a thumbs up and then entered the blue portal behind him as Sonya just looked at her son with worry in her eyes before sighing, and then continued on cooking the dinner. Instant dungeon. Winterland successfully created. Izuku smirked before equipping his sword and then rushed into the nearby forest to level up. That was good and difficult, Izuku said while panting as he sat against a tree before drinking some potions to heal himself and replenish his stamina. As I level up, the dungeon monsters have also started to become strong, making it difficult to level up, he said before looking at his stat. Status. Name, Izuku. Race, high-class dragon. LVL, 251. HP, 5, 9755, 5, 9755. MP, 489, 954, 89, 950. Strength, 396. Agility, 348. Endurance, 393. Vitality, 379. Intelligence, 357. Sen, 346. AP, 0. You have reached the required level to ascend to the next rank. Would you like to proceed for the evolution? YON. Warning. The evolution will take 24 hours and will need a large area. Izuku smirked as he saw the second message. I will start the evolution tomorrow morning so that it can get completed during the night, he said to himself before standing up and then left the dungeon. I am back, Mom, he announced loudly, to which Sonya rushed into the living room and quickly started inspecting him. Are you hurt? She asked with concern in her voice, to which Izuku shook his head, making her sigh in relief. All right, then get fresh up and then come downstairs to have dinner, she said, to which Izuku gave a 2-finger salute before rushing to his room to take a quick bath before coming back downstairs to have dinner together with his mom. So, this was the end of part 1 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.